Shalom, Patreon. It's the bear. You probably already knew that because you're on Patreon and you clicked on this video. Whatever, bro. It is 93 degrees and humid outside. Now, I know it's July. Still, yuck. Yucky, yuck, yuck, yuck. That has nothing to do with what this video is about. Sorry. I don't have the best words right now. Craig Shipes. Craig Shipes. Choosing a bug out location as a divorced parent with shared custody. Ooh, that's a good question. Wow. Okay. Really good question. And I've gotten this question more than once in the recent past, which is why we are having this conversation. Well, and also you asked, and you're a patron, and patrons are special. Maybe like, short bus special, but special nonetheless. We're all short bus special, don't get offended. My wife was previously married, and the result of that previous marriage is my two oldest children. So my eldest girl and my boy kid, my son, are not mine by blood. They are mine right here, and may Yahweh help anybody who would ever think to do them harm, because Daddy Bear will rip your arms off and then laugh at you. They're my kids, but we don't share DNA. And so this question is near and dear to my heart because my kids do go visit their biological father. Now, luckily, or I don't know, I guess for him it kind of sucks, but we have our kids the vast majority of the year. And I will not go into particulars there because the internet is a fickle mistress. But we have our kids the vast majority of the year. But there are periods of time where they are with him, and I will be frank, my anxiety goes up because the logistics of getting our kids from where they are, and I mean, they're not close. We're talking a full day's ride in a vehicle, which is, part of why they don't see their biological father as much as they potentially could. But that is a choice, and life is full of choices, and we will suffer the consequences of those choices. So, all that being said, boy, it's like rush hour in this little tiny town right now. All that being said, when my kids are not here with me, I get a little bit tense. Because I think about, and I have plans for, if we need to go get them right now, what does that look like? So I can relate. Do you even muffler, bro? I am not interested in bugging out with my kids. I've said this before on camera. Geez, learn to drive, dum-dum. It's that day. It's that day around here. I've said this before on camera. My children's biological father and his new wife are not welcome at our place if the balloon goes up, and they know this. And that creates tension. I have friends that I've known my whole life that are not welcome at my place if the balloon goes up, and that creates tension. Chip in, pull your weight. Did a video about that on YouTube. Pull your weight. You pull your weight, it's worth the conversation. I'm gonna quit trying to tap dance all over this and just get to the point. You need to figure out, do you even want this other person, I'm guessing your ex-wife, to be there with your kids? And most of the people that I've discussed this with, the answer is yes. She might be a raving lunatic. She might be a total B word, but she's the mother of my children. And even though she wasn't good to me, she's good to them, is generally what I hear from people. And that's fine. But you need to come to grips with that come to grips with that now, and make your peace with it. These people are idiots. 47 and a 65. Good. It's good. It's good. Make your peace with it. And then the way that you look for a bug out location for you and your ex-wife and your kids is the same way you look for a bug out location anywhere else. Is it the right place? Does it have the right resources? Can you do the things on it? And I don't know your situation. If we were to have this conversation in person, the first thing I would want to know is whether or not you want her there. And then next, geographically speaking, what's the lay of the land? Where do you live versus where she lives versus where you could bug out to? That's a huge contributing factor, because then that determines who goes where, when. So I would literally plot on a map, we're bugging out here, her location is here, my location is here. What's the best way? What are the 3 to 5 best ways to get from where I am to where I need to be? And how do I swing by and get her and the kids? Or her and the kids and the a-hole new husband, or whatever, right? That makes a big difference. You need to know where you're going for sure. And just FYI, I'm not saying this is you, Craig, but lots of people are under the impression that they're just gonna bug out. And really what they're trying to say is they're just gonna occupy a shallow grave. Because if you don't know where you're going, you're not just gonna anything except become a statistic. There's a slight possibility that you somehow navigate the tumultuous landscape of factions unknown to you vying for territory and materiel and resources, and happen to find a group of like-minded individuals after the balloon goes up, and you can forge deep, deep bonds of trust with each other and somehow coalesce into a cohesive unit to start to forge a reemergence of an empire. Or you get shot in the back when you're not looking, and if you're lucky, buried in a shallow grave. So just, whole nother story for another time. Geographically speaking, where are you going? Where does she live? Where do you live? Now, and this is key, like the number one reason that my kid's biological father is not coming to our place is not because of me and him. It's because of my wife and his new wife. And she says she would be okay with it, but I know my wife. She would not be okay with it. And I am not having an ongoing disturbance in my shalom during the worst of times by having this woman, whom frankly I don't know her, but I don't know that we would get along either. I don't know her. My wife knows her from before the thing with the thing. Yeah, you guys do your own math on this one. I'm not having that at my house. I'm not doing that to my wife. So, that being said, if biological dad and new wife wanted to get a piece of land near to our piece of land, I'd be okay with that. You might look into that with your ex. Hey, we're gonna bug out here. I own this 5-acre piece and you own that 5-acre piece. And granted, she's your ex-wife. She's naturally not going to take you seriously regarding preparedness, but maybe that's what you do. You have separate dwellings. One piece of land with 2 different dwellings on it. Some distance, right? And I think you really need to do the math on this one. Are you going to be able to bring her along kicking and screaming? And I'll just be frank with you. Probably not. Y'all are divorced, remember? And so if you can, and not everybody who's divorced fight like cats and dogs, but a lot of people do. I need to wet my whistle, and my whistle wetter is on the floor because of that dum-dum. Yes, I just did that. Call a cop. It'll be fine. So, are you really going to get along or aren't you? Answer is probably not. Now, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do this, but you should think about whether or not you're going to do this. What do you do if it's legitimately chaos and your wife says, "No, Craig, the kids are not going with you"? Yes, they are. Now what? What does that look like? I'd have a plan for that as well. And, is there a new husband? Is there an ex-mother-in-law who's a tyrant? You're going to know how to navigate that situation way better than I will, but certainly things to consider. So maybe, and I'm thinking out loud here, maybe the move is you have a piece of land or you have a place where there are separate dwellings. A place for you and a place for her and the kids on the same piece of land. I also feel an onus to just say, and I'm not saying this is you, but I know that there are many, many different people within the sound of my voice. I don't know what the future holds, but I don't know if you're gonna fall in love with your ex-wife again. And I'm not saying that you're trying to, so please understand that. And I'm trying to tiptoe around some potentially abrasive points here. I'm not saying that you are of the opinion that you will fall back in love with your ex-wife during end times chaos, but I am saying I have run into other people who think that way. She's your ex for a reason. You are her ex for a reason. Maybe chaos brings you closer together again. I don't think so. I don't know. But maybe the move is you have one piece with two separate dwellings on it. If you manage to get her and the kids there, now what? Or her and the kids and Todd there and you, now what? Listen here, Todd, I run this show. This is my place. Is it? You brought Todd along. It's a very complex situation to navigate, and that's why we just have a hard no. No. And we've told our kids no. Now, that being said, and I'll be dead honest, I am trying to have a deeper, more meaningful relationship with my kid's biological father. And frankly, I think as a man, he's made a lot of progress in the last year. And frankly, I think as a man, so have I. And that's good. And I don't want to be at odds with him. We have talked about this. In fact, I shook his hand, looked him in the eye, and said, "You know what? I don't like you very much, but I feel like I should, if for nothing else than the kids. We should at least be able to get along. So let's work on that." And begrudgingly, we are. So if he and his new wife wanted to get a piece of land adjacent to us for the betterment of my children, I would help them. Not monetarily, but as far as expertise and an extra set of hands, yeah, I would help them with that. And I think that's a fine gesture, and I think that I still wouldn't want them on my property. And I guess the question really becomes, but what if there were no other options? Are you saying that you wouldn't let your children's biological father onto your land? I'm saying that I don't ever want to be in the position where there are no other options. I don't want to break my kid's heart, and I don't want to be put in a hard place. And so because of that, I've employed some forward thinking, and the answer right now is no, you're not coming here. You can come next door, you can come across the street, you can come wherever you want to come, but you're not coming here. Not taking food out of my kids' mouths to feed you because you didn't prepare. If my mom can't come on property without having adequate food storage, neither can they. That's the conviction of my heart. I don't know what the conviction of your heart is. And I don't know how responsible you feel. See, my situation is different than yours. And I think that difference is significant enough that it affects the way that this would play out, and it affects the consideration of the details. I don't know for you, but I would really be thinking about how long would this last if we did this. You don't want to abandon your kids. I get it. I get it. But what do you do with the ex-wife and the new guy? I think most internet preppers, which praise the father, our tribe is not most internet preppers, but most of them say, shoot him into a shallow grave. Yeah. Bravado. Sure. Now, if he's a scumbag, shoot him into a shallow grave. Craig, I don't rightly know, but I would consider possibly having two dwellings on the same piece of land. I would consider having a plan to get from where you are to where your ex and kids are and taking them to a location. And I would consider having a plan that does not include your ex. And she might be the sweetest person in the world and a loving, nurturing mother, and you guys just didn't get along. Or she might be a dope fiend and just an absolute hellion, demon-possessed, raving lunatic. I don't know. Okay, we got to fix this leak in the ceiling, or paint that spot. My phone got hot and cut off on the way back here, so I was going to say 3 things. You need to figure out how to get from where you are to where they are, all of them, and then to where you're bugging out to. And then you need to have a plan that you get there and she and the kids go with you, and then you need to have a plan that just the kids go with you. Because again, I don't know the circumstances of your divorce, but I figured I found this lovely, talented woman over here who's putting up eggs from the hens. So I figured, I came home and I said, what to you? What did I say?
You want to give me your 2 cents on a video?
On a video. So Craig asked, bugging out as a parent with shared custody. Do you have any input? And I haven't told you what I've said to this point.
Right.
So what do you think?
I'd say that really all depends upon your relationship.
Talk at the phone. Sorry. When you turn your face away, they can't hear you.
I would say that all depends on your relationship with the other. And are you both on, preparedness mindset? Because if they're not and you're just kind of like bringing them along for the ride, I don't think so.
That's kind of what I was thinking, but yeah. I didn't want to influence what you had to say, so.
Right. I don't know. It's one of those kind of tricky situations. So if it is something that you're preparing for, I would convey that to the other person. I think it's only fair that they would do some part as well, just like with custody.
Great point. Great point.
It's joint. So is this a joint decision or is this a sole decision? But you got to work all that out before anything happens, because then it could come down to a situation, if it's not already worked out or discussed, that, you know, something does happen and your significant other's like, I'm not leaving, I'm not going anywhere.
Yep.
And then you're having to do battle at that time that you don't have time to battle. So go ahead and get the battle over with.
Great point. Love you.
That's my 2 cents.
Good job.
Thanks.
Okay. That's the bow we tie on this conversation. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Shalom, y'all.
Sure.